Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahad Fiverrwala and today I am again with another Fiverr special guest. So today's our special guest name is Kirk. So first of all, thank you so much Kirk for your time and give your time. So without wasting time, let's get started and talk with Kirk. So hello Kirk, how are you doing?
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Okay, now hello. Can you hear me now?
Okay, can you?
Hello, did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, can we already live. So first of all, okay, before moving on to start, will you like to please introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Okay, I'm Kirk Hazlett, and I am part-time now. I'm had been teaching full-time in Massachusetts. I teach public relations and communications courses. I also worked in public relations for about 20 years. So I take what I learned in my real life into the classroom to help students understand how communication works and why it's important. So now I'm living in Florida. Uh, we've just had two hurricanes, and I'm ready for the season to be over and we can have some quiet time here. But I'm delighted to be on the show today and look forward to sharing experiences and ideas.
Okay, very amazing. So my first question on your screen is what subject do you teach as an adjunct professor at the University of Tampa?
I teach mostly it's an introduction to communications, which helps give a sort of a broad background for students to help them understand what the career field is about. I also teach introduction to public relations so that if they want to go into that as a specialty area, I give them an idea. I teach public relations ethics or media ethics, being honest and open and truthful in your communication. Um, and then I teach organizational communication, which is how companies communicate, what they should be doing. So a little bit of everything to get people excited about communication and hopefully about public relations.
Yes, continue.
I beg your pardon?
No.
I didn't hear the last question there.
Okay, I will show this again. So what subject do you teach?
Oh, I just talked about that.
Okay, I am sorry. So my next question on your screen is how do you incorporate real world PR experience into your teachings?
That's a very, very good question. I when we're looking at the book, when I get to certain subject areas, I give specific examples from things that happened to me while I was working in public relations. So I don't say the book says this. I say, this is what I did in public relations. So this is it. You can't talk. Theory is nice. And I won't go too far into this. Theory is very, very nice. But you need to know reality. You need to know the fact. Because when I started in the civilian world, I was in the United States Air Force for 8 years and was doing public relations. I just didn't know that's what it was. When I started working in public relations as a civilian, I learned I didn't have a lot of a background to help me. So I learned on the job. Things happened, and I had to figure out how to deal with the situation. So I take that and go into the classroom and say, yeah, here's what the book says. Here's a real life example of what happened.
Very amazing question. Thank you so much for your answer. So my next question on your screen is, what challenges do you face while balancing academia with your professional career?
Well, at this point in my life, I don't have to worry about it because I'm kind of retired and I can do what I want to. But when I was working and teaching at the same time, that's a good question. I had to prioritize. I had to say, what is more important? This thing that my job wants me to do, or this thing that the college wants me to be doing? So you do have to figure that out. You have to draw a line sometimes and say, okay, no, this is more important, so I must do this. And then sometimes, there would one or two occasions, not often, but occasions where I would call my workplace and say, I'm doing this today at this university. I won't be able to do what you want. But you just have to be very, very careful and be professional about it.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Very amazing answer. So my next question on your screen is, what methods do you use to engage students in ethical decision making in public relations?
That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked that one. Because once again, I give real life examples. And I will say, okay, this is what your boss is asking you to do. If you look at what he is asking you to do, there's a little bit of a question. Is that what would you do, student, if you were in my position? And so once again, it's very much a real life, real time, tell me what you think. And the beginning is I make sure that for example, I'll just use this one. I belong to the Public Relations Society of America. We have a code of ethics. It says this is what, if you want to be an ethical public relations professional, these are the things you must consider, and these are the things you must do. So I tell my students from the very, very beginning, this is your resource. You can go to this. It's not just for us in public relations, it's for anyone. So you read the code of ethics, you see what it says, then you ask yourself, what would I do if I were faced with this situation? And sometimes that means that you are going to walk into your boss's office. And in my case, most of the time, it was the president of the organization, and say, we need to rethink. You don't want to go in and challenge your boss, but you want to say, we need to rethink what we are doing. And here's why. So again, it goes into, and so in the classroom, what I do is real life examples. I give them case studies. Here's a situation. What would you do and why? and it gets the conversation going. And then I encourage them, especially when it's real time in the classroom. Most of the time now I teach online, but if I'm in the classroom, we go back and forth within the classroom. This student may have this idea, this student over here may have this idea. Okay, let's talk about this. Which one is right? Is there a wrong answer, or just maybe not the best answer? But just making them think.
Very nice question. Thank you so much for your answer. So, my next question on your screen is: how has teaching at UTampa shaped your perspective on the future of PR?
That's a good question, very, very much. And I'm teaching at the University of Tampa, but before this, I taught for about 15 years at universities and colleges up in Massachusetts as well. And it makes me feel good about the future of public relations, because the students, I feel like, and I don't play favorites. You may be my friend, but if you do something incorrect, or if your answers are not the best, I'm going to tell you. And I'm seeing the students looking for more information so that they can make better decisions. So I believe that the future is good, but it really, really does rely on me and my colleagues everywhere in academia to use real life teaching. Don't teach theory, or teach theory, but then give real life examples as to why that is what it is. But we're in good shape.
Very amazing answer. Thank you so much for your answer. So, my next question on your screen is: how do you ensure students understand the importance of the ethics in public relations?
You really, and that's, when you look at what is going on in the world today, and you keep seeing the news, and you go, how did that person manage to do that and not get in trouble? I emphasize that, yeah, you might get away with this time, but I will find out sooner or later. The public will find out sooner or later, and you and your organization will pay the consequences. So it's I just and it's not, I'm not threatening. I'm just saying this is reality, especially in today's world. Because when I started out in public relations, we didn't have computers. We didn't have all the stuff that we have today. Everything was done. If you wanted to communicate, you picked up a telephone, you dialed a number, and you talked to the person. Now we do just what we're doing today. We're talking through a computer. But the problem is that the people who are affected by your company's actions are not just next door or down the street. They're in another country, they're in another environment, but they are watching you and making their decisions based on what they think you intend to do. So being honest from the beginning, that way you don't have to go back and clean up afterwards. You've done what you believe is that. So again, and once again, go back to this, is I use examples. I can point to examples in government, in business, and say, yeah, this happened because. So real life, real time.
Yes, you saying right. So very understand. Very good question you tell us. So my next question on your screen is: what role do internship play in the curriculum you designed at UTampa?
Thank you. I can talk for the next 3 days about internship. Internships are very, very, very important. A, they give you an opportunity to see what it's like in the profession that you think you want to go into. And I have had students, I had a student one time, you love to give this example. She had taken this was not here, it was in Massachusetts. She had taken every course that I taught. And she was sort of one of I call it my disciples. Everything that I suggested, she did it. But we went to a public relations program one time, and we had presidents of 3 public relations firms talking about what they did, their expectations, all of that. When we finished with the meeting, we were walking out of the room, and she turned to me. She says, "I need to talk to you." And I go, "What?" She said, "I don't think I want to do this public relations anymore." "Really? Well, what do you want to do?" "Well, my minor is social work. I would like to do social work." "Do it." Because then you discover, and today is a very high level practitioner at a major hospital in Massachusetts, because that's what she decided to do. But internships, you say, "Well, I think I want to work in this area here." Do an internship. Do you really like it? I had, once again, one last example. Very, very good friend who did an internship at a public relations agency, a public relations firm. They loved him. He loved them. They were the happiest people in the world. But I felt in my heart this wasn't where he wanted to be. But he finished his internship. He was graduating. They offered him a full-time permanent position, and he took it. And I got on the telephone and I said, "You really don't want to be doing this." "Well, I love it here. They love me." Okay. He wound up about 6 months later, he left and went to something else. Today, he's doing what he really, really wants to. So I encourage students, and I'll quit talking after this. I encourage students to do 2 or 3 internships. Do one at a public relations agency. Do one at a nonprofit organization. Do one at a company. That could be anything. So you get to see the different environments, the different ways of thinking and the lifestyle, and decide which one you like best. Then focus on that. Internships are incredibly important.
Incredible answer. Thank you so much for your answer. So my next question on your screen is, can you give an example of PR case study that you frequently use in your classes?
Well, I go back, and there's so many different ones that I do use, but one of the ones that I use that I think sort of sets the stage is, for me, when I first started working. I worked for as I said, I was in the United States Air Force active duty military for 8 years. Then I went to work, got out of the Air Force and went to work for the U.S. Army as a civilian, a public affairs specialist. And so we went through a training period as an intern, and then we were given our first assignment. And this is one of the things I talk about: doing research and understanding what you are dealing with. So we came up to Massachusetts from Virginia, which is where my job was going to be. I went downtown outside of the Army base where I would be working as a civilian public affairs person. And I met with business people, introduced myself, told them who I'd be working for, and asked, What can you tell me about this organization? And more than half of the people, almost 3/4 of the people that I talked to, business people, had never heard of us. Now, my organization had been on that Army base for 25 years. We were more than 2/3 of the population of the Army base. We were the biggest organization on the base. They had never heard of us. So I went in to meet my boss, and his first question to me when I introduced myself, he looked at me and says, "Why are you here?" Sir, I've been downtown talking to business people. We are the biggest organization on this base. We've been here for more than 25 years. Nobody knows who we are. You have an image problem. I am going to fix it. He wasn't happy with the answer, but he knew it was the truth. But I use this as an example. Research. The first thing you do in public relations before you act is you do the research. What is the problem? What do you think is causing the problem? And what might you do to fix the problem? So that when I went in to see him, I already had in my mind, these are the things that I must do. So within 3 years, completely had changed public opinion about our organization. But I use that in the classroom again. It's do your homework first, know what you said, what the problem is, and have an idea of how you can fix it.
Incredible. Thank you so much for your this answer. So, in the last, what advice you will give to our audience?
I'm sorry, what advice would?
You can give us any advice if you want for anybody.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, my advice is I do it just like I said, do your homework. Talk to people. Network. Go out and meet people. I have lived in Hawaii. I've lived in about 5 different states in the United States. I worked in all of those different places. Every time I go make a move, I meet with business people. I meet with my peers, people in public relations or education, whatever the case may be, and find out what is going on. What are they dealing with? What do they see are the challenges and the opportunities? But do that. If you're interested in public relations and there is a public relations membership organization in your area, go to their meetings if you can. Meet people. Get to know what's happening so that when it's time for you to do something, A, you've already heard from professionals, from others on what they have done, and B, you have someone that you can turn to. You can pick up the phone and call and say, I have this situation. What do you think? What would your advice be for me to do? So you have a network of people who can help you find the correct answer. But so networking, curiosity, be always curious, always asking questions. I drive my bosses crazy. My favorite question is 3-letter word called why. Why do you want to do this? And do that. Ask why. Be willing to ask the question and be willing to offer suggestions. And that's probably it.
Okay. So thank you so much, Kirk, for your time and talking to us and with our audience. So this is was our today's guest. I hope you learned something new from us. So thank you so much, Kirk. Goodbye. Allah Hafiz. Goodbye. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Bye bye now.